This video was made possible by the EA Creator Network. Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I'm back with another build with The Sims 4 Horse Ranch, and this is going to be like a starter home, a starter ranch. I basically wanted to create something with starter funds, so under 20,000 simoleons that had enough space for you, like one sim or two sims, as well as a horse. And, you know, remain under that budget. So this is actually a 2-bedroom starter home at like 19,000 something simoleons, or maybe I hit 20,000 exactly. I don't remember. We're going to find out together. But the first thing I started doing was creating a little space for your horse. I wanted to have a covered area that had like fencing on the bottom and the horse bed, as well as the area for water and hay and everything they would need. And I also put one of the balls outside for them to play in when they are not in their stable. I will actually be deleting that whole thing I just built in a little while because I decided I wanted it to be on a diagonal. And unlike where you just want to rotate it one way or the other, you can't rotate it on a diagonal. So I did have to go ahead and rebuild it completely on a diagonal, but I think that's okay because I figured out what I wanted it to look like. So you'll see me deleting that all of a sudden, no worries on that. But I wanted to have like a pretty simple house. I mean, it's got to be a starter home. I only have so much budget to work with. So I needed to keep that in mind while creating this. And I think the shape of it came out really good in the end. I really like how this home comes out. As you can see right now, I'm using a brown color on the outside of this, like a wood texture everywhere. And I really like this, but I feel like this is the one that I keep going towards. So I wanted to change this up. So you'll see me change to a bunch of different colors throughout the process of this build. But it does end up red in the end, which I think is so fun. It makes me think of like farms and barns and horses and cows and stuff. So I thought it worked really well here. And of course, it let me get out of my comfort zone a little bit and get away from this certain swatch of wood that I adore and use way too much. So we'll be staying with this for a little while, but it will be changing. You'll see that happen in a little while. Just getting some wood on our front porch. And I actually will be getting rid of those fake dormers and putting like a real one, which I think costed me less simoleons to do in the end. I was trying to make decisions based on how many simoleons we had, and there was a lot of going back and deleting things later on in the build to try and afford this home because I really wanted to keep it as a 1 sim budget. I know I gave it space for 2 sims, so I could have made the budget like 22K instead, but I really wanted it to stay under 20K. So I was really dedicated to that. And if you only have 1 sim, you could probably delete the other bedroom, or at least the other furniture in the other bedroom to have some additional money to start with, because I'm pretty sure I get exactly at 20K or very close to 20K on this build. So you're not going to have like any money left over when you move in. I guess you won't have your horse yet either, unless you made them in Create a Sim. So then you probably would have your horse. So you don't have to worry about that either. But I wanted just to make sure there was enough space for multiple sims and a horse. And this is where I'm finally deleting the structure so I can build it on a diagonal instead on this lot. I just thought it would look nicer and less like everything was exactly next to each other, if that makes sense. I don't know why, but it bothers me when things are like that sometimes. I think it just looks a little bit more interesting when things are on diagonals. So that's what I'm doing here. Moving all of the items in here accordingly, and then going to redraw the roof area. In order to do that, I had to like draw a box upstairs to get a flooring and stuff. So I could have trim around to that and everything. And then we're just playing around with the roof to figure out how I wanted it to look, because I didn't think it looked right. So I ended up duplicating it and having like a piece in the middle to have a little point. You'll see that in a moment here. First, we're going through like all of the swatches of things on the roof trim, and it's starting to come together. I'm not quite happy with it yet, but I'm starting to feel more comfortable with it. It's at this point become a house I'm not going to bulldoze, because there were a couple of those in the process of my early access footage. Not with this one, like the first build I did. It never came out. I never finished it. Maybe I will after Horse Ranch is out, well, which I guess it is now. Maybe I will once I get home and we can revisit my first build. I can show you what I started with and try and finish it, and that could be interesting. But for right now, we're working on the starter home, and now I'm trying to figure out the swatches. I'm like, ooh, blue, and then the red, and I'm unsure if I like that. And so then I changed to these dormers, so then I have to change the roof swatch to match them. And I go back and forth with so many different colors here. I was really trying to make the red work, and then I was changing like the columns and the fencing and the the spandrels, and it was just a whole process. We get there in the end, but it takes a while. And fortunately for you, I cut a lot of that footage out, but I did keep some of it in so you can see some more of the swatches and the items as well as the process, because I know a lot of you like to see the process of getting to a final result because it's not always linear and I go back and forth quite a bit. It's not always an easy thing, even though sometimes the videos make it seem like it comes together easy. It definitely doesn't most of the time. So I am getting rid of those dormers now, and I should be creating my own here shortly, which looks so much better. And then we're also figuring out which swatch to use of the columns and spandrels. I ended up using the columns that I used for the stable instead. I think they matched so much better. Of course, they matched the stable, but I just wasn't liking the ones I had originally. But here is that dormer. Instantly, this house looks so much better. I really like it. The red is looking so cute. I wanted to use these shutters. They were too big sized up though. But I put like 2 on top of each other on either side. I should be fixing that here shortly. And it looks really good. So I was quite happy with that because I was worried for a little while on what I was going to do because I did want to use them. But I also thought that they looked a little bit silly that size. They wouldn't look silly that size if it were on like a bigger wall, so they weren't hanging off, but I thought stacking them like this worked quite well. And then we're starting on some terrain paint here to make it look a little bit more muddy, like a horse has been running around on this lot, because that's kind of what I was imagining was happening here. You're going to be hanging out, becoming friends with your horse, riding around, all of that. And then I'm just adding some more landscaping, of course using a lot of live edit objects as all of that stuff is free or very cheap. And it matches the surrounding area as well. I use that regardless of price, but with starter homes, that's always a really good tip, is to try and decorate a lot of the outside and interior of a home using debug and live edit objects because it doesn't cost anything and it makes everything look so much better. So doing a lot of that. Also, those bright patches of grass, those are prairie grass, and your Sims horses can actually eat those. So that's why those are placed around, even though they're a little bit bright for this area, in my opinion. I just thought that that would be nice for your Sims to have. And I also put like some bales of hay over there from debug. And we got a truck over here. I really like the debug cars. I think they just add such a realistic touch to the outside of builds. I've done that in a lot of builds in the past. So whenever we get some more with packs, it makes me happy. So we have a couple that look like this, and then some of them have more mud on them, which, you know, makes sense for this sort of environment. So I really like those as well. But I thought for this one, a cleaner one would be nice. And then I have some like grapes growing there for you to make nectar from, which I thought was really cute in front of the house. So just placing those down and getting some more overgrown grass before we head inside to work on the floor plan. Like I mentioned, this ends up being a 2-bedroom house. So it's fairly small, but I was pretty happy with the fact that I could fit 2 bedrooms. It's sparsely decorated as it is a starter home, but it gives you space to decorate some more as your Sims earn some more money, but it still feels fairly decorated. I think the bedrooms are probably the most sparse when it comes to the interior. The kitchen's pretty good, and I guess the living room's kind of sparse too. You'll see when we get to it, but I was just happy to make this a 2-bedroom for a starter price. Actually, let me know what you prefer when it comes to starter homes. Do you prefer something that's more fully decorated, but on the smaller side so that it could be fully decorated? Or something that's a little bit more spacious, but doesn't have as many decorations, so you have space to grow into it and add your own things. I do a combination of both of them, but I'm always curious which one everyone prefers. Adding some more windows now and getting our archways, and I should be drawing the other wall for the other bedroom now as well. They're kind of on either side of the house, and you walk into the living space, and then over on the left is going to be where the kitchen is. The bed swatches and the wallpapers I used in the bedrooms change a lot. I was very decisive on what sort of style I wanted because I was trying to keep some of the red on the inside of the build. That's something I tend to do, even though it's not necessarily that realistic that the outside swatch of your house is going to match all of your furnishings. I just think it looks nice and cohesive in The Sims since you are kind of viewing everything from a top-down view, that it is more aesthetically pleasing for it to match. So I was trying to do that here. But I don't end up keeping those swatches on the beds. They weren't working for me for some reason. So that will be changing. We will get there eventually. But I do use some red in the living room. We have this really pretty rug and couch. And I actually swap out these chairs a little bit later for a wooden bench instead. We were watching our budget, so I needed to swap some stuff out. So there will be some changes throughout the process where we have to delete things and then see if there's anything else we can add for the remaining budget we have left. But this is going to be the kitchen space, of course, using the new counters that we got. I went overboard and we go over budget here, and I'm not even noticing because I'm just like decorating. I'm not usually building with a starter budget in mind, so I forgot about it for a little bit, and you'll see we are like going over budget here any moment. And then I realized it and dialed it back because all of a sudden we spent over 20,000 simoleons, and I'm still going, haven't noticed it yet. And I realized that that's a problem. We cannot afford this, but it's okay. I pull it back and we get back into our budget, and it ends up still being a cute home. It's just kind of minimal, but I think that's good for your Sims to start out with in this world and start their like horse career if that's what you're going to pursue. Or it could be just a hobby. It really depends on what you decide to do in the game. But we ended up going with a cheaper stove and a cheaper fridge. And then we only got a couple of cabinets in here so that it wasn't too busy and too expensive. I do end up adding a hutch in the kitchen, though, next to where the counters are. So it fills up that wall a little bit better. And our dining table ends up in the kitchen as well, which I think is so pretty. I really, really like it. I've mentioned that in pretty much every build at this point that I've used it in, and in the build and buy overview. I should be grabbing it here shortly, but there's a new round table that came with Horse Ranch, and it's just so pretty. I really, really like it. It's always nice when you get an item that you're that excited about, because I feel like it's just going to be one I use a lot. But here we should be grabbing that hutch. This is also new with the pack. Quite nice. Lots of different swatches on it, and it just fills up the space quite nicely. I don't think I put any clutter in it, although it does have swatches if you would like to do that. We didn't have much simoleons to work with in this build, so I opted not to add any decor in there. I did, however, get some curtains in here. I believe I changed the swatch of those to beige. I keep trying to make the red work, and it's just too much because I also need it to be a very specific red, like not too bright, and everything felt too bright. But this is when I'm going and looking at all the beds and trying to figure out colors, still really trying to make the red work in one of the rooms. And I also should be changing the wallpapers because we got some new swatches for this base game wallpaper, which I was really excited about. There's like a bright pink, there's a blue, there's like a greeny color, a grayish color. I think that's a really cool thing that we got with the update that came with this pack. There's another wallpaper, a couple of other wallpapers and floorings as well that got new swatches, which is so exciting. I love when they go back and update base game swatches. It really just feels like you have so much more to work with in the game. And after 8 years with The Sims 4, or is it 9? Is it 8 or 9? Came out in 2014. It's going to be 9 years in September. It's nice to have some new stuff to work with for like base game basics. So this is one of the bedrooms. It's very green in here, green and blue, and I think it came out pretty cute. I can't remember if we keep everything that's in here right now, though. I might get rid of one of the bedside tables because simoleons. We're getting really tight on that budget right now, and then I'm trying to figure out if this bed should work or if I need to use the same other bed or what swatches. And this quilt, is it too busy? Is the pink too bright? Like, just so many questions here. Trying to figure out how to make it all come together. It was a little bit too much, I thought, so we should be toning it down here. I do really like this bed, though, with the sheep on it. It's so cute. I could see this in, like, kids' rooms, the single version of it. This also kind of screams grandma to me. I can think of like an adorable old grandma with her like sheep comforter. It just makes me so happy to see. I'm glad that we got mini sheep and goats with this pack. I think they are adorable. I like almost cried seeing them in the trailer at first. So it's so cool to finally have them in the game. I haven't played with them much, but I have checked them out a little bit because I couldn't help myself. They are too cute. Anyway, back in the living room now, we're trying to figure out budget stuff because everything was too expensive, and I was also unsure if I wanted to keep the swatches, and I wanted to make sure we had a coffee table, but then we're right at our budget amount here, and then I realized I needed a trash can, and that made us go over budget. So we're going through and trying to figure out what we can delete, what we can minimize to get some simoleons back and get back under that 20k due to the trash can, because for some reason outdoor trash cans cost money, but the mailbox is free. And I disagree with that. I think they should both be free. So I thought that this bench worked a bit better in this space. I quite like that bench. I feel like I'm going to use it a lot. And then we just keep painting the wall and changing my mind about everything. And the couch is now beige, and we're just figuring it out. It's all a process. and just adding a couple more decorative pieces as we have a few more simoleons to spare at this point. So I got those utensils in the kitchen, and I deleted the flower off of the bedside table. What did I put there instead? Because I feel like I put something. Oh, I put some of these sculptures. These are things you can like carve with a woodworking table. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and click that bell to be notified when I upload. Thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.